Hey everyone, Katie and Sarge Steele here, and today I want to talk to you about a unit review that's pretty rare. That is the Aegis defense line. So, what is it about this unit that nobody is talking about it and nobody wants to play with it? And sure, we could reduce that down to, oh, the unit's no good. That's obviously why nobody is playing with it and nobody is using it. But I keep finding myself coming back and looking at this unit. Now, as I typically do, I don't talk about the points. And the reason being is those can change every 3 to 6 months. So I'm not going to talk about that aspect about its points efficiency. I just want to talk about what it is and what it does. So what you're seeing before you here is the newest rendition of the Aegis defense line. So this has brought us up to, this came out 9th edition. This is now 10th edition that we're talking about it here. And it functions very differently than it used to. It's a very different model now. And I do like the update in general. I do think it has brought the aesthetic into line with the modern era of models rather than the older one, which I do have like 3 or 4 copies of. So the model's really cool. It comes with each one of these a platform, okay, like this superstructure that's kind of got an elevated platform in it. It has 5 wall sections, 1 broken wall sections, 2 end pieces, and all these angled pieces in between, which help you to assemble the wall in various patterns. And that's something that's very important because when you deploy this unit, there's actually a lot of flexibility about how this goes down. And technically, if you want to get really specific about it, you could deploy this model in so many different ways that it could actually take you the longest to deploy the Aegis defense line, say as compared to like a 29-man blob of infantry plus command squad plus attaches plus, Ogren, bodyguard, and so on and so forth. It could take you longer to deploy this because you can sit here and change the angle of these little bits, right? If you just flip around this piece here, it changes how the wall sets and how it goes down. Or maybe instead of doing what I've done here and placing the platform in the middle, you could place it off to one side, so on and so forth. There's a lot of possibilities with this. The other great thing just to know about the kit, it does come in a box that has 2 of these. So when you buy one box, you get 2 Aegis defense lines. I think that's a really good deal, honestly. Okay, enough about that. Let's get into the actual unit review and why I think this might have a place in some of your lists. Okay, as always, we start out with the stat line. This is a unit. It is a fortification in the Astra Militarum. It has no movement because it's a wall, okay? It has toughness 12. That's pretty durable. 2 up save, 10 wounds, leadership 7, no objective control. Okay. Interesting. Let's then also talk about its keywords real quick. I want to jump over to keywords. It has fortification, Imperium, Aegis defense line. That's it. So it's not going to interact with your Astra Militarum keyword. It doesn't have infantry, it doesn't have vehicle, none of that. It is simply a fortification. That's it. Now, when you deploy this, you deploy it with the 5 walls, 2 end pieces, and the broken wall section. If you want to include the broken wall section, it does state in the deployment rules it may include up to 2 end pieces and 2 pieces of broken wall. Those, to me, it sounds like they're optional, but I don't see why you wouldn't include them because they give you more flexibility. When you set this down, you deploy it like any other unit, so it does have to be in your deployment zone. I want you to note the way I have it deployed here, this is 20 inches wide. It's not even in the full view of my camera. Think about that, 20 inches. As you can see here from the camera view, I have a 20 Cadians plus a 5-man command squad and a single file line pretty much behind the wall. That is a lot of linear distance to cover. And I think that's what makes this unit potentially viable. So let's talk about what it does, because that's it. I mean, it just sits there. It can't control objectives. It can't move. It can't shoot. It has no war gear. It doesn't do anything else. It just sits there. It's fortification, right? So here's what it does. Friendly Astra Militarum models can be set up and end any type of move on top of the platform of this fortification. So it's got the little platform here, and you can end your movement for your models on top of that if you want to. Okay, good to know. That's cool. Then it has reinforced cover. Each time a ranged attack is allocated to a model, if that model is not fully visible to every model in the attacking unit because of this fortification, that model has the benefit of cover against the attack. Now, it does not state if you're within 2 inches. It does not state within 1 inch. Simply, it obscures line of sight from the attacking model to the target model. That's it. That is really important because it impacts the way you're thinking about terrain and the way you're thinking about deploying your units. If you're thinking about just deploying for cover and not to be out of line of sight, this model changes the game immensely. You can put cover in a 20-inch width wherever you want. And that's just the way I've set it up. There may be a couple more clever ways to angle this and set it up to get more distance out of it. I'm just telling you what I've done here, right? And that's without taking, say, maybe 2 of these. If you took 2 of them, that could be up to a 40-inch wall of cover that each section has 10 wounds and is toughness 12 with a 2-up save. That's a lot. Let's dive a little deeper, okay? And let's talk about that other part real quick. Now, that is reinforced cover. So each time a ranged attack is allocated to a model, if that model is not fully visible to every model in the attacking unit because it's fortification, then that unit has benefit cover. I think that actually reads both ways. So both your models and your opponent's models. It doesn't state friendly models, Astra Militarum models, anything like that. It's just models. So do keep that in mind as we continue to talk about this, because the next part is Astra Militarum only, and that is defense line. While an Astra Militarum infantry model has the benefit of cover as the result of this feature, see below, that model has a 4+ and vulnerable save. So most of the time, the cover may not matter. What's really going to matter is that 4 invuln save that you receive for having cover from the Aegis defense line. That is important. That is really, really great because it's just all models, right? You don't have to have a psyker back there giving them that type of benefit. They just get it because they're obscured, because they get the benefit of cover. Now, that's kind of interesting to think about because it's every time you receive the benefit of cover. So if you don't receive the benefit of cover, then you may not get the 4 invuln save. So I think there's some room to talk about that and about your opponent's abilities to remove the benefit of cover from your units, which could be devastating if it functions that way. And I think it would depend on the phrasing, but it seems like it would do that because you only get the 4 invuln save when you get the benefit of cover. So keep that in mind as well. While an enemy unit is within engagement range of 1 or more fortifications from your army, this is the fortification rule, that you can be selected as the target of ranged attacks, but each time such an attack is made, unless it's made with a pistol, subtract 1 from the hit roll, okay? So fighting, they can fight the wall, they can shoot it while they're in combat. Well, in doing so, it's -1 to hit unless they're using pistols. Okay, makes sense. Same as everything else. Models in this unit do not need to make a desperate escape test due to falling back while battle shocked, except for those models that will move over enemy models when doing so. Okay, so you get engagement with it, you fall back, you don't have to do desperate escape if you are battle shocked. That clarifies how melee works with this, but it is a unit. So that means to charge the units behind it, you have to go over it, or you have to destroy it and then go through it. Okay, this isn't terrain, this isn't barriers or obstacles, this is a fortification that functions in a very specific way. So what you can do with this is place your models so that they are more than 1 inch behind this edge here that your opponents can get their models up to. Why is that important? Because that means you receive the benefit of cover, you get all the benefits of the Aegis defense line, but when your opponent charges the defense line, you are not in engagement range. You are not. Unless you want to be, but rarely in guard do we want to be. I use that as a cheeky way to secure objectives mid-late game by charging my infantry out. But so this is what you're typically going to do. You're going to sit your infantry about 1 inch behind this wall. So keep that in mind about what you're putting up here on the platform. That means you may have to, instead of doing something pretty like I have done, you may actually have to scoot your models in and back away from the edges, right? So you can be more than an inch away. So make sure you measure that so they do not end up in the melee fight. You don't want them fighting. You want the wall to be in the fight and your infantry behind it. That means your infantry that are behind it could be unchargeable. You go around the edges, right? So keep that in mind. You could go over top of it, potentially with jump pack and stuff like that. So keep that in mind too, or fly keyword units. But against ground assaults, this has now made you less chargeable. Why is that important? That means if there is an objective behind this, you have now better protected that objective. And that's where I think the Aegis defense line may have a role. Really what this is a 20-inch wide unit that blocks your opponent's movement into your deployment zone, and then they cannot get to whatever is behind it, right? They can shoot at it, sure. If it's infantry, you're going to get an invulnerable save. In a cover save, but they can't charge or move over it. And that's where this model has some tactical play. The other cool thing about this is, see these little pockets right here, the way I've set it up. You could set it up differently to make these even bigger, make them smaller, but these little pockets right here are big enough to also hold something like a Hellhound, a Chimera. So if you put this on the line of your deployment zone, you could still fit a couple vehicles right in here. That's pretty cool, and that gives you some more ideas. Definitely several Sentinels could fit here, probably 2 on each side. So that's very beneficial as well to think about deployments. If you want to be very aggressive, get this up front. And if you got that objective marker just back right here, your opponent's going to have a tough time getting to it. They basically have to go through what is nearly a Leaven Russ in terms of its defense stat. Then you have a row of infantry, probably with a feel no pain and other types of benefits, and a high OC if you're taking your regimental standard with platoon or Acadian command squads. And they got to chew through all of that just to get to your objective marker. That is very beneficial. Now, commonly what people will probably do with this is use an Aegis defense line to place their heavy weapons teams, right? So I got some las cannons back here, and that does make some sense. Your heavy weapons teams are paper bags. I'm telling you right now, you don't want them to get wet. You don't want them exposed to the weather, aka your opponent's shooting, because they're just going to disappear from the table. But putting them behind an Aegis defense line then allows them to shoot while also getting an invulnerable save and a cover save. And so that's very important, right? If you give them take cover, for example, and you increase their save by 1, and they have the benefit of cover, now they're at a 3-up cover save, and they have a 4-up invulnerable save. It's a little bit less enticing to shoot that unit now. They're still going to die pretty easily to AP or high-strength weapons, but they're going to stick around for a little while longer and to be able to shoot their weapons. Don't forget about some of the special rules that heavy weapons teams have where they can overwatch for nearby units. And I haven't covered that yet in the video. We'll talk about that, but that is another tactical benefit where you can place heavy weapons teams behind other units. And then when those units, if those units get charged or something, and these want to overwatch, they can get some benefits to that. I really recommend that with mortars or heavy bolters and autocannons. and you could really chew through the enemy. Maybe with las cannons to get a lucky shot off against the vehicle. The other thing to not forget has the infantry keyword to benefit from your cover saves and from your vulnerable saves is your field ordnance batteries and your other carriage artillery from Forge World, like the Earthshaker carriage, Medusa carriage, and so forth. There's also several in Legends, like the quad gun that you could take that are also infantry keyword artillery carriages. Those get the benefit of cover and the invulnerable save. Most of the time, if you're taking like the bombast guns like I have here, you're going to have them tucked out of sight. But say if you have the Malleus rocket launchers, which nobody takes, but if you did, well, now they can see the opponent's army and they have a 4-up invulnerable save. That has now made them much more resilient. And if you're playing against a melee army, your opponent now will have to chew through a lot of stuff to be able to charge your artillery. You have now kept it much safer. So these are all the units that can benefit from it and how I would kind of play them around the Aegis defense line. So keep that in mind. So you'll want to, try to keep them 1 inch away from the front of the wall. They benefit for the cover. They can shoot over it. That's really awesome. Your opponent, I think, technically also gets the cover save because of the way reinforced cover is written. And I do not believe that has been FAQ'd as of the recording of this video. And knowing me, GW will drop an update tomorrow, and then I will cry small tears. But anyways, as of right now, it hasn't been changed. So I think you and your opponent would get the benefit of cover when shooting through and over this wall. Something important to keep in mind when you are playing with it. So it's a downside, right? That means your opponent gets cover anyways. But a lot of times you're playing this game, everybody just gets cover. Like most of the time when they're moving around, they get cover. So just keep that in mind, keep thinking about that. And don't try to cheat with it. Read it yourself and see if you get the same interpretation. But what this does is this protects your objective marker, protects heavy weapons teams, and stops your opponent's movement. That's actually really what this unit does. And I think that is maybe worth it sometimes to take it. If your army, now this is all list building, if you have a need for screening in your list, you're like, oh, I need to screen, and your infantry die too quickly. Ta-da! This would work amazing. I know I have Cadians here, but it would work amazing with a 20-man blob of Krieg with a field marshal. So if you think about that, right? If you have 20 Krieg models with a field marshal behind this wall, 4-up feel no pain, or 4-up invulnerable save plus 5-up feel no pain, and you're resurrecting D3 models every turn, that is fantastic resilience that your opponent is going to have a very hard time shaking. And usually shooting or melee is our weakness, right? If somebody just touches us, we die. But with Krieg especially, or even Cadians or Catechins up behind this, you're going to survive pretty well. The other thing you could do is with your infantry squads. And so if you're using infantry squads that have the single heavy weapons teams in them, they can benefit from this and be able to shoot over it and then hit the enemy, especially with their higher AP weapons, like say a heavy bolter, an autocannon with AP -1. That'll negate the benefit of cover that your enemy will receive because of the Aegis defense line. So keep that in mind. And also, once again, based on my current interpretation of reinforced cover and the way it's written in the app and on the data card. So really that's it. That's it for this unit. But what I want to stress is, I think if you're looking for screening, if you're looking to control the movement of your opponent, this may be the unit to do it. This thing could stretch out 20 inches wide. If you take 2 of them, that's 40 inches. That's nearly the whole width of the short side of the board. If you could change the configuration to be more V-shaped, and so then it goes all the way back, and you could tuck your home objective back there in the V, making it much harder for your opponent to get in there and give you a chance to have a really resilient unit. Now, what I think is currently stopping this from being the go-to unit is its points. And I'm not going to talk about those today, but I think the points are really what makes it prohibitive. Its actual ability, its functionality is okay. it does all right. And I think it could be a lot of fun in your games. So if you're not looking to do competitive play, then I would highly recommend to try this unit out. Have some fun with it. Do some narrative games, do some casual games, do some crusade, and throw this in there and just have some fun with it. Why not? And I really think it could serve a great role in your games and be a lot of fun to use. Experiment with it. Try it out and see what you think, right? Look what I'm talking about with the field ordnance batteries or the Forge World artillery or your infantry squads in behind it, an objective tucked away back in there, or simply maybe even shove it up to the front line just so your opponent can't easily get into your deployment zone. Maybe you make kill boxes on the left and right sides of this, and you intentionally draw your opponent away from this and into those kill zones and just hammer them with other stuff like Rogel Dorns or Sentinels with plasma cannons and heavy flamers and so forth. There's all kinds of ways that when controlling your opponent's movement, you can change the nature of the game and hopefully its outcome as well. And that's really where I think the Aegis defense line shines and comes in, is controlling that movement of your opponent. All right, that's it. That's all I have for today. I hope you've enjoyed this unit review, and I hope you've been enjoying all the others I've been doing as well. If you have, please like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate all the support that you all give me, and don't forget to check out the affiliate links below. That includes the clear movement trades that I like to use in my games, along with the brushes and handles and the wet palettes that I use when I paint my pretty models here. So you can get discounts on all those things in the affiliate links below, which also help to support the channel financially as well. So I really appreciate you all do this as part of the hobby for fun, but do appreciate a little bit of support here and there as well. Please remember to have fun wargaming, and Cadia stands.